All right. So first off, Happy New Year, everyone, and thank you for joining this first Yay Community Meetup of the new year, 2023. We're really excited to have you all here. And yeah, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to join us for this networking and inspirational talk. My name is Claire Sterngold. I'm the Yay Community Manager in the International Trade Center. For those that are not familiar, the International Trade Center is the joint agency of the United Nations and the World Trade Organization with a mandate to support small businesses to be able to engage in trade. And I'm really pleased that today your discussion will be led by our amazing Yay advisor to ITC for Botswana, Neo Mosemane. Neo is going to be leading this excellent discussion. So this is a purely youth-led space. So Neo, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself and your work to our audience and then to get the conversation started. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Claire. As she's already said, my name is Neo Mosemane. I am based in Botswana. I'm the Yay advisor for ITC, but I've been in business for many years. Started out in the food and beverage industry. I have a degree in business management with a focus on strategy. I'm also a trained chef. This is how I ended up in the food and beverage space. I ran a coffee roasting company for a few years and a coffee shop and mobile coffee bar. And I'm currently fully focused on the enterprise development space, purely out of need, really, because I feel like there's a need for an advocate for small businesses, specifically from the perspective of somebody who has operated a small business. I think the space of enterprise support needs a youth voice. And this is why I've started Lebone Enterprise Development Agency. Lebone means light in Setswana. So the whole purpose, the goal of the business is to enlighten people, is to pave the path and be the torch holder so that I can enable other businesses to thrive in Botswana. And hopefully the rest of the world soon. I'm very excited to be here discussing agribusiness and technology with my brother Gilbert, who I met in December. I'm very happy to have this conversation with you. We've gotten along brilliantly. And I'm really glad to meet Noreen from the Philippines. I've just been telling her that she has a very impressive bio and I'm so inspired by her. And I know that everyone will leave the session feeling inspired as well. So I would like to hand over to Noreen to introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about her business.
Hello, thank you so much, Neo, for introducing me. And no wonder you resonated with the background, because what I also was into is really also supporting entrepreneurs, still am. That really actually is the core of my mission. And but I've been so for everyone's introduction, my name is Noreen. I'm from the Philippines. I have been founding social enterprises and tech startups since 2010, so more than a decade, because the first business I ever started was when I was in university. So yes, I am actually not in school. Asian features, we look young. I'm actually in my 30s now. But yeah, I've founded around 9 companies. And of the 9, I think 6 are still alive. They're still running, and all running by wonderful co-founders. So that's my story. The company that I run right now is called Panublix, and it comes from a local word, panublion, which means heritage. And our goal is to connect designers with tropical textiles and artisan craft so they can design for sustainable lifestyles. And I come from a city called Iloilo, which used to be the textile capital of the Philippines. So we wanted to revive that heritage. Apart from that, I'm an educator. I am actually teaching also entrepreneurship to my university, Ateneo de Manila University. It's one of the best universities in the Philippines. And I'm also an ecosystem builder. So I think if you're from a developing country, an emerging country, you get to also see the need of different hats, right? How you also just don't want your boat to rise, you want all boats to rise. So that's also my advocacy. So yeah, that's for me.
Thank you so much, Noreen. Gilbert, you want to chime in with your introduction?
Awesome. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is where you are. It's a pleasure to be with all of us here. And thank you very much, Neo, Claire, and the team from ITC here, to be specific, for putting us here. Also, it's been a pleasure to also be able to just share my story and the story of the sector in which I'm working in. I am Gilbert Mwale, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of IMSICA, a company that has existed for the last 6 years. We are still growing strong. And what we are into is simply what is called agri-tech itself, the idea of digitizing processes and activities in agriculture. When we started out some 5 years ago, we started with the first solution, which was an e-commerce platform where we could help smallholder farmers procure farm inputs and have them delivered to them from anywhere in the country. Then we introduced an e-learning portal for 2020 when there was COVID. There was the wave of COVID-19 had reached its peak. We introduced a training platform to help smallholder farmers learn on how to farm as a business, which is more like an advisory platform. And come 2021, and we then launched out our Agri-ERP, which is a platform that is usable for people in the space of aggregation, contract farming, and as well as those organizations that do outgrower schemes with smallholder farmers. They would easily use this tool to manage information of the farmers, the contracts, the loans that they're giving out to the farmers, payouts using mobile money. As we all know that the majority of smallholder farmers struggle with use for multi communication, which is being able to inform farmers about information on a regular basis through bulk SMS and emails, if at all they have that. One last interesting thing inside there that we are excited about is the financial inclusion option, which is allowing them to do bookkeeping. We've added a small bookkeeping tool that should be able to help cover such things. I will not, as I end my introduction, I just want to mention that I also do what is called part-time lecturing. I love to share the knowledge I have. So as I'm speaking right now, I'm joined in with my class, a third-year class, where we learn on what is called software development and implementation. So we are always looking at how we can be able to revolutionize Africa using the tools that we are creating. So I will just try and give us a quick view of everyone, and then my part will be done. So this is the team here. All right, great stuff. So thank you very much. Okay, back to you, Neil.
Oh, this is wonderful. This makes me very happy. Welcome everyone in Zambia. I hope you find this very insightful and are just as excited about this conversation as I am. I'd like to get started with the conversation with asking you why you decided to build a technology solution for farmers, and why do you think technology solutions for textile productions and farming is such a hot topic today? I think we can start with Gilbert, since you're already on a roll.
All right, great. Thanks, Neil. Very good question. Why are we in this space? So I will just start out by probably, first of all, introducing maybe what agricultural technology or agri-tech simply is. And I would, typically go on a textbook, explanation, which you can get from Wikipedia. And it simply says, that agricultural technology or agro-technology is the use of technology in agriculture, horticulture, and aquaculture with the aim of improved yield, efficiency, and profitability. Agricultural technology can be products, services, or applications derived from agriculture that improve various input and output processes. So as I get to this point, I would like to just mention that I come from an agricultural background myself. I grew up in the eastern part of Zambia, which is just about 30 minutes away from the border of Malawi. And having grown up there, my dad was into agriculture. And I realized that most of the work that we were doing on the ground had very little results. He tried to double up on a few activities, and I would still get to see that the results he was producing were pretty small. We did have enough food for us to be able to eat, but I felt that it was not enough to get us rich, or rather at least have the easy perks of life that anyone would need. So I hated agriculture for that, I must mention, because I thought it was a fruitless labor activity. And with that understanding, I launched out in the opposite direction of becoming a technology expert. I got my first degree in computer science and went to India. While in India doing my master's is when I realized how they have used technology to actually change their own life, to change the way they do things, the way they procure goods, the way they service themselves and take care of the communities where they are. Now, if you have a glimpse of India, you do know that that is a heavily populated area, but you would realize that technology still works. And this is where this was born inside of me to say, how do I now introduce this level of technology in a space like where I was? When we started studying the problems that we are facing, we discovered 4 main issues were a cause of the lifestyle I had in agriculture with my family. Number 1 was lack of farm input supply. 2 was access to markets for smallholder farmers. 3 was advisory information for farmers. And lastly, it was the issue of financial inclusion, not having access to information on how we can acquire loans and financing for us to be able to grow our farming businesses. And this is where we came in now to say, how do I use technology, which I'm an expert at, in actually solving a problem that I experienced with my family and that other thousands of farmers in Zambia and Africa are equally experiencing. This is how we jumped into this space. Neo, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. So it was inspired by a need that you grew up with, and that you saw other people struggling with. I think that's very noble. What about you, Nori?
Yeah, so typically you wouldn't think about agriculture when you heard my introduction that we're a platform connecting designers with textiles. But we use tropical textiles, natural textiles. So that means fibers that are farmed by actual farmers. So the fibers that we use are Philippine cotton, abaca or Manila hemp, where the Philippines is the top producer of in the world. And we also use pineapple leaf fiber. Historically, we've been one of the first countries that have pioneered the use of the pineapple leaf into fiber. That's why we have the traditional barong. That's our Filipino wear. And you would see Filipino politicians and even businessmen wear it. So it's like our national dress. But even like even office people, office professionals would wear it. And now we're also slowly getting into bamboo, and it's very, of course, it's a sustainable fiber, and it also is a non-timber forest product. And one of the focus, because the Philippines is one of the mega biodiverse countries in the world, deforestation is a real issue. And one of the focus also to help with deforestation is to focus on non-timber forest products. So that means to move communities away from timber or the traditional trees to non-timber, like bamboo, which grows on sustainably, and it can also protect the riverbanks and all that. So we always pitch, if the food industry has the farm to table, we're building farm to fashion. So, and it's also our way of getting people to really be more aware of the whole sustainability, but also going back to nature, really, because sustainable fashion is something that has been around. But because of the recent changes, the pandemic, and even the legislations happening around the world, especially in Europe, for sustainability, it's no longer a nice to have. You really have to be sustainable. Like, it's a license to operate. We're learning now. So actually, we're selling the yarns, the weaving yarns. We're working with a Philippine government facility. Thankfully, the reason why we got to do this is because the Philippine government has been reinvesting a lot in the textile industry. So they have invested in a micro spinning facility where it can produce 50 kilograms a day of weaving yarns, and it's being used by our weavers. And I think that's where the whole the weavers also are from farming families. So the weavers can be also farmers, or their husbands are farmers. But we also have weavers who are men as well. So it's a whole community dynamic where you have farming, you have weaving that's supporting the livelihood. So it's very interlinked. And the issue always that we get from the ground is the lack of raw material, the lack of supply. And I think that's the same for the agri industry. So actually, we are working with agriculture companies as well, especially those who are also adjacent to the sourcing supply chain solutions. And we're talking to one right now who they're doing this for food, how to make sure that they can assure market for the farmers. And we're kind of talking also how that algorithm can also be translated into the fibers. So it's also something that has been a very neglected industry in the Philippines, because textiles, as what I've heard from many economists so far, is actually a very core industry in any nation's development. So it's actually what brings forth the manufacturing industry, which brings forth service industry and innovation. So that's and in the Philippines in particular, we kind of missed that development growth. So we're kind of in this very short window of opportunity to be of help and of solution, to be a solution towards that. But we're also being very clear-headed about it. At the end of the day, we just want to help the weavers get access to these tropical textiles, tropical yarns. We want to make sure that the source is sustainable. And we now know that the only way to do that is to really intentionally care about the agriculture side, because without it, there's no base. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I feel so enlightened, and I'm really intrigued by the farm to fashion concept. I think that should be a worldwide phenomenon. I don't know why it's not. And I'm really glad that the Philippines government is actively engaged in supporting this cause. I think political support is so important in the advancement of movement. And you really just, you are a woman after my own heart, because you spoke about developing the value chain, which is something I've really learned to appreciate from my work in coffee, because I was the end producer. But one thing that I really learned was the whole ecosystem of it, and how generally the farmers get the shortest end of the deal. So this is really inspiring to me, and I hope everyone else is as inspired as I am. So I wanted to ask, what are some of the interesting trends that you're seeing around your work, around technology and textile production, Noreen, and for Gilbert around agribusiness? Maybe we can start with Noreen.
Yeah, you know what? There's so many innovations happening in textiles. There are so in the whole conversation, there are because everyone's talking about the circular economy right now. And the circular economy is basically three principles. So first, you eliminate waste. Second, you circulate materials so it doesn't go to the landfill. And third, you regenerate the environment. So depending on you can actually innovate wherever in those three principles. For us, we're more trying to develop solutions for the regenerating the environment part, especially because and this is why we have this farm to fashion concept, because it's really all about how do we make sure that even the farm practices of those who farm our fibers, they do not extract the soil. And it's obviously a steps ahead from organic agriculture. So it's harder actually, but that's actually what the market demands. So even luxury brands in Europe actually already have this mandate to source for regenerative fibers. But yeah, on the eliminating waste part, so you've got people recycling existing clothing, you've got rental swapping, or that's the circulating rental swapping. So actually these little things also, actually they're not little, they're like all these numerous solutions so that we can make clothing very sustainable as well. But one thing that also excites me is the development of new materials. So my co-founder is a scientist, and that's actually our long-term goal, because for example, there's a company that is working here in the Philippines who has developed pineapple leather. I don't know if you know Pinatex. They're based in Europe, but they actually work a lot here in the Philippines. So they develop pineapple leather. And there's also this group called Milo, who developed mushroom leather. So, and a lot of these amazing material science-based solutions, so that the clothes you wear can actually, be good for the soil. So that's where you need scientists and researchers. And that's why when I got into this, I'm initially not really a fashion person. My other co-founder is, but when I got into this, I realized it's such a holistic industry that anyone can actually be a part of it. So, but yeah, that's that's trends in our industry. Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. What about you, Gilbert? What are the hot new technologies in agribusiness currently?
Well, I think this is definitely a good question, and something that, if you are new to this space, or you are looking for opportunities on how you can be able to participate in this environment. Remember, the key thing when we were defining, agri-technology, was that we are looking at, farmers' activities and seeing how you can be able to help improve the yields, and as well as also, assist people with better production. And in that case, the idea is that you're looking at it from the perspective that this could be then a tool, it could be hardware, it could be software, it could be anything that, comes in to just alleviate the challenges that smallholder farmers are experiencing. So what trends we are seeing at this point in time is that you do realize that there is an outcry. First of all, we are doing a good job of reducing mortality rate in the world as countries. So what we are seeing is an increase in the number of people that we have population, in terms of population increase, which is pretty good. It means that less fatality. But what this also does is that it then also puts pressure on on production of food. So there is need for more food. There is need for more good food, to be specific. There is need that for those certain areas where people have not had, well-balanced diets and all those things, if they can also be able to access such kind of things. So we are seeing trends in areas like, mechanization. There's need for mechanization for us to be able to increase the pace at which we produce. And this is, for example, in the old age, or even just in recent times, we would use things like hoes in Africa for us to be able to actually plow our fields. And we would use human capital for people to be able to go in and still plow our fields, weed the grasses, and remove any kind of weeds using their own hands. But we do realize that then the challenge with that is, first of all, financially, there's nothing much that as a smallholder farmer they would be getting out of it. Then secondly, you can only produce on a very small scale. The weird thing about Zambia's statistics is that when we compare between the number of, we have a statistics of roughly about 1.3 million smallholder farmers. Literally, all the farmers, about 1.3 million in Zambia. And then you have just within that set, about 30 to 50, even less than 50 as commercial farmers. But what is interesting is that when it's time for production and results, on a scale of a hectare, which is more like a football field, where you would grow your maize, which is our staple food in Zambia, you would find that a small scale farmer will produce less than 1.5 ton in that space with the same inputs, with the same, whatever workforce they were using, but versus a commercial farmer on the other side that is doing 2.5 to about 3 tons of the same hectareage. The question is that, what are the things that a smallholder farmer is missing, medium to small scale? What can we be able to build for them? So number one, I mentioned mechanization. For us who are in agri-tech, you may or may not need to be the one providing the actual machinery. When I talk about mechanization, what I'm talking about here is tractors. I'm talking about combined harvesters to make it easy for harvesting purposes. You are talking about things like plows, and as well as also anything you'd use to prepare the soil. Now, all these instruments, you can choose as a tech person, whether you're going to play in the space where you are the one providing that machinery. You can get into deals with organizations that are already providing those things and are selling them in their shelves. It's not cheap to buy one single tractor by a smallholder farmer, but you could be able to come up with technology that helps those organizations make those equipment available to smallholder farmers on a lease basis, on a per usage basis. Such kind of things that would help the organization collect their money and collect requests from smallholder farmers, while smallholder farmers accessing the ability to mechanize their farming activity. The other space, and that is why you probably would go out there, you can go and check what other people are doing already. You will see Hello Tractor is doing a good job around that. You will see Trotro Tractor as well is doing a good job around that. You can see how they have done it and see how you can improve it to add other equipment that they are not providing for lending purposes or on a usage basis, or literally just lending out to people to use. That's mechanization. The other thing that I would also like to mention is in the area of traceability. We hear very clearly that the smallholder farmer, even Neo, you mentioned it, that in most cases they get the shorter end of the stick when it comes to things that they produce. But when you have things like traceability, what you see is that you are able to capture information about a farmer who has participated in producing a particular product or crop or animal all the way until they reach on the shelf. Therefore, the benefits can easily be accrued back to the smallholder farmer in that such kind of a scenario. We have done that with the ERP. Many of us can come in and see how we can provide tools for such things. Another interesting space that is actually also coming in strong is the area of financing. Fintechs around this space also. Fintechs for agriculture, allowing smallholder farmers. One of the things you realize is that the struggle with the smallholder farmers is they struggle to also get financing from big financial players. So what you could actually do, this is one thing I enjoy about having Claire in the meeting. She's literally making sure that whatever I'm saying, because I keep on mentioning the word ERP, thinking that everybody knows it. So apologies for that. Enterprise resource planning too, and you could use it, like literally to capture your whole entire value chain of your business from keeping information all the way to the end. So I was coming back to issue of financing. Smallholder farmers struggle with that, and what you realize is that you could come in with with initiatives where smallholder farmers can get products or inputs that they need for them to be able to produce. And when it comes to payback, you could use other innovative ways. Instead of literally just expecting cash from them, you could actually be able to get back the outputs of the products that they are actually giving out. And then you would store those things and actually resell them. A way of you thinking about this model would actually make you be able to become one of the most needed solutions that the smallholder farmers would need. You could use technology to deal with that problem. And I think we are also seeing drones coming into the space because we see that diseases, infestations, and as well as also weather issues are becoming a problem for smallholder farmers. So you being able to use drones, first of all, to be able to capture information around what's going on in the farmers' fields. The problem, I'll bring it home. Commercial farmers can afford to buy a drone and use it on their farms. But you as an innovator, as a young entrepreneur, it is your responsibility to figure out how are you going to get this expensive technology and narrow it down, share it with the rest of the smallholder farmers in a way with a business model that makes you survive while making sure that smallholder farmers can also get the information that they need. So these are some of the trends that we are seeing in the agri-tech space. And I hope that that was, that is helpful for somebody that is aspiring to get into the space. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's so insightful. What I really like about both your responses is that you are showing that there's so much potential for youth to participate in these spaces. There are so many challenges, therefore, young people can come up with solutions and come in and help grow the economy. So that is some really interesting stuff. And I like that you are both looking at the industries really holistically. So it's that I think that assists in coming up with actual solutions for problems that people are really facing, everyday problems, that somebody else might take for granted, but are actually a huge hindrance in the growth of farmers. I wanted to ask you both what challenges you are currently facing in supporting farmers and weavers on the ground. Like, what are some of the major challenges? I'm sure there are many, but if you can just give me maybe the top 3. Can start with you, Gilbert.
Awesome. So thank you for that question. I mean, challenges obviously are quite a lot in any business and in any sector. So what I'll just narrow it down to a few, because sometimes if you dwell on them a lot as an entrepreneur, you end up, sticking your life and spending it complaining. So these are some things that you would want to point out as risks. This is the best way I usually look at it. These are risks that, would actually slow you down or cause you not to be able to actually move at the pace that you would want to. So first of all, on the list for me is that, you have a population where not everybody has access to technology. And secondly, the issue of, being educated and all those things, that also plays a factor. So you should be able to look at it when you are building solutions, most especially in the agricultural space, where you are there. What's the penetration of technology? What's the penetration penetration also of internet. When we talk about technology, we're talking about so you are realistic and understand it so that I can be able to meet them at the place where they are actually able to use your solutions. Because remember that if the majority of your users are in the remote areas, they will not use your solutions because they can't access them. And I think for me, that is number one. Then the second one, obviously, is that, you know, in terms of resources, financial resources as a young entrepreneur, sometimes you are limited to the extent to which you can be able to do activities. So you're talking about working capital, you're talking about inventory funds, and any kind of, you know, financing that is required. But what I've seen with this is that the key with it is start with what you have. And that is what we've been able to do. First of all, we know that the products that we need to reach out to the farmers with are available. Then we start taking steps with working with partners. Now, when you're starting out, another challenge you have as a small business or as an entrepreneur is that the partners, because they want to get, you know, they want to work with people with experience. And sometimes you don't have that. So it's good to use your experience from your work environment where you have come from to kind of show that you are diligent and you're able to deliver as you are trying to now get into opportunities and projects that are going to do with your business. So show your traction in other areas and your integrity in other areas and bring it up as you're working with partners, because partners will be able to help you reach physically the customers that you are looking to reach out to. And I think this is where I have learned that sometimes when you are in the space like agriculture, you may need organizations like NGOs, which sometimes may not be working in the direct space of agriculture. They may be dealing with health. They may be dealing with child abuse or whatever it is. But remember that the same community that they're working with, they're the same community that are into agriculture. So you would actually be able to collaborate and push your product through that. So the challenges, I think, for me were those three. Access, you know, to financing for you to be able to execute your activities on the ground, access to you know, having your customers having the knowledge of using technology and them being able to afford that technology that you want them to use your services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that you're not just mentioning the challenges, but how you've been able to navigate them.
Neil, just a quick one before I go. I think the last one I would like to add also is expertise of human resource for you to build the necessary technology that you require. Most especially now, we all know that we're talking about things like ChatGPT. We're talking about, you know, which is AI. We're talking about, you know, machine learning and all those things. And these tools are critical when you're building these technologies, because at some point you need to mine data. So the key issue with that is that we do not have a lot of tech experts to that level who would be able to actually make themselves available to a startup for you to be able to produce those kind of results. So I think that will be the last one I'd like to add.
Thank you so much, Gilbert. Noreen, what are some of the challenges that you are facing?
Yeah, well, first, because, you know, the Philippines is also a very multicultural country. So right now I'm currently in Manila, but from where I am, I'm in Iloilo. People in Iloilo speak a different language from Manila, although we have a national language, which is Filipino or Tagalog. But if I go to the other, you know, islands, they also speak a different language that I don't speak. So it's always important to have like local cultural context. So how we usually do it is we have a position in our team called a sourcing curator. So they are the ones who are directly in charge of the communication between the weaving enterprises and our company. And they are from the place, they speak the same language. So it removes the cultural barrier. So that's one challenge and one solution we have. The other challenge is it is also a very political climate. and I mean in general. So, many of the weavers, they also get supported a lot by government programs, and in a good way. So it's also something that we've inculcated in our model, that we have a classification system with the kinds of weavers that we work with. We actually only work with weavers who are registered. They already have some sales, like they're already ready for some kind of digital adoption. So they are already organized. They don't need so much of hand holding. But for those who do, then we let the other programs, the NGOs, the government work with them. But there are instances where because there's some political dynamics happening. Anyway, it's a complicated situation. So again, this is also the importance of the sourcing curator. The sourcing curator has to have that multi-sector intelligence as well. So it's kind of like really a development sector person who is able to really liaise with multiple stakeholders. And from what I understand also, I was just listening to a podcast actually by a Filipino agri-tech startup. And when they started also during the COVID-19 pandemic, and here in Manila, they had like what you call these quarantine passes just to get into every single nook and cranny of any place. And what they did, they really just had to form all these relationships, what to make sure that they could deliver their vegetables and all that. And anyway, so the point is like we're also registered as a tech company, by the way. So whether you're in agri-tech or any tech startup, but the heart of it is really still relationships, like people management, managing relationships. And then the third challenge, we're now realizing, especially if we want to hit the European markets, international markets, we really need to amp up our manufacturing capabilities. So we're now really realizing that we might or we should actually get into investing into our own manufacturing facility. So that's another business plan down the line. But it's something that we need to plan for so we could actually control quality and price as well. So it's still a work in progress. But yeah, those are the challenges we have.
Thank you so much for that insight. I had a bonus question for both of you, but I think you've somewhat answered it, because I was wondering about the reception of the local communities for your technologies. I thought maybe it might be challenging to get buy-in from the local communities, but I gather that, Noreen, you have found a way around that with finding somebody local to liaise with you and the farmers. And Gilbert spoke a lot about collaboration, which is something I believe in so much for growth. So thank you so much both for answering that before I even was going to give you the bonus question. So I just wanted to ask you how the audience can get in touch with you and play a role in your journey.
Yeah, so for me, you can get in touch with me at noreen@panublix.com. I'll type it in the chat. And you can also like us on our socials. It's @panublix. And our website is the same, panublix.com. So, yeah.
And how can the audience be a part of your journey?
Oh yeah. So what's interesting right now? Well, if you're into crochet, that's actually the winning product. We do sell crochet yarns. But if because we're all around the world, just share about us. I think that already helps. But also in your daily lives, because we're all trying to promote sustainable living and moving away from fossil fuel produced fibers and any kind of, fossil fuel activity, just, to be more aware about how you live. And again, what Claire shared, it actually is from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. She shared in the chat where you try to eliminate waste, circulate materials, and regenerate the environment. I saw that Google actually created a circular economy graphic that tells you little ways how to live more sustainably, how to make your wardrobe a little greener. So those little ways actually help also.
Thank you so much for that. Gilbert, how can the audience get in touch with you and be a part of your journey?
All right, that's a blank check question, Neo. Thank you very much. So I think they can first of all write me $1 million check.
That would help.
Well, so the first thing I think is collaboration, opportunities for partnership. I think for me, those are quite critical. We have one of our tools, which is what I mentioned, the Agri ERP, which I think I shared one of the links on. It's erp.imsika.com. It's a tool that can actually work easily anywhere in the world. So we are interested in working with anybody who would like to use it for their own business purposes, as well as also if you know a community where you are that you feel would actually benefit from such a tool. Our model of expansion is simply that we first of all get a pilot. We first of all get a partner locally in any country, and then with that partner, either they're the users, or we at least also find 2 more, a max of 3 users, and then after 6 months of piloting with them, then we can determine whether it's a solution that is working good for them, and then we can be able to expand it out to, or even have a launch so that we can have more people in that space actually benefit from the tool itself. So that for me is the first area of collaboration. The second stage would probably be if you know of any organizations, private and as well as also NGOs that are solving problems similar to what we are solving, and you feel like they could actually use these tools to get their jobs done faster, because we've been moving around in circles over some of these things for quite a very long time. You somewhere in the UN, somewhere World Health Organization, or any other organization that is humanitarian targeted, please reach out when we can be able to see how we can use these tools to also collaborate. And lastly, those who can connect us also to investors, that would also be amazing to see how potentially we can both benefit from those opportunities. I think this is what I see would give us room for us to be able to work with anybody else. We are open to that. Thank you very much, Neo, and everybody.
Thank you so much, Gilbert. Before we get into the Q&A, I would just like to say thank you so much to both of you for having this conversation with us and sharing your insights. I really enjoyed every minute of it. And I'm glad to learn about the concept of farm to fashion. Love that. I consider myself a bit of a fashionista, so I should know better. And I look forward to adopting this into my day-to-day life and living more sustainably. And thank you for the inspiration. And Gilbert, you've taught me something interesting that I never considered, and I'm sure the audience has learned as well, about collaborating even with people that may be outside your scope of work, because I never really quite thought of it that way, that if you are serving the same community, then you can reach out to people that work in that same community, even if it's in a different context. So it really opens up avenues for collaboration. And I'm really glad that you brought that up and let's consider that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much both. And we are about to get into the Q&A section. So I will read some of the audience questions. I've lost it, but I had it here just now. The very first question. Oh, if you have no limitations, what will you continue to do in your field of work? This is from Wilson. I think you both spoke about the endless possibilities of work in your industry. So what would you personally do in your field of work? If you didn't need the $1 million check and you didn't need to navigate the government bureaucracy, what would you do? You can start with Noreen.
Yeah, so I personally would invest more in the science and R&D part. That's my personal interest also. So I have so many friends who are scientists, and I'm seeing that many of their work actually can have real, tangible, and commercializable applications for textiles. So I have a friend taking up, well, she just finished her PhD and is now working in a startup in Japan, but she is developing pigments from algae, for example. My other co-founder, she's finishing her PhD as well, and that's a similar route she wants to get into. So I would personally want to invest more in that, the R&D side of that.
Thank you for that. What about you, Gilbert?
Well, I think for me, tap dance to work is a statement that Albert Einstein said. And that simply meant that he enjoyed what he did and cannot be paid out of it. And that is exactly my experience when it comes to the work that I do. I think I love technology, and I love the fact that I can be able to create solutions that help people become better and do things faster. So if all things being equal and there's nothing holding me back, at this point in time, I would have the ability to have all the tools that I have in one place, allow farmers to do everything I said at the beginning, which is farm input supply, advisory information, find where to sell their produce easily, and as well as also I would have the ability to give them loans so that they can be able to grow their businesses financially and even much faster, being able to reinvest into their businesses of growing food that feeds the world. So my intentions around that would then be that I would like to have the largest farmer database in the whole of Africa, where farmers are able to actually communicate with each other, learn from one another, and as well as also do business with other stakeholders that are necessary to them. That is what I see doing. That is what I see myself doing in the future and at any point in time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have the AFCFTA, which is about to be implemented. So I think you'll have customers all over Africa now. So that should be exciting stuff. Please unmute yourself. AFCFTA Youth Advisor. I see your hand is up, or let me unmute you.
No, thank you. Thank you, team and Claire for putting this together. So mine, I think I should start by okay, introducing myself, I'm called Mulot Alan David, and I do chair this AFCFTA Youth Advisory Council, launched by His Excellency Wamkele Mene to mainly champion youth inclusion in the AFCFTA implementation processes. So today's discussion, I think, is one that is really good, and how I wish we could then be able to broaden the discussion further. And mainly reason being, you may very well know that agriculture is the backbone. This is where we thrive in. And right now, looking at, you've just talked about the AFCFTA and the opportunities it offers to young Africans. And not only young Africans, because we're also looking at beyond the African continent, that it offers the globe. That's why you see quite a lot of partnerships around it. What now is required really is to strengthen the agricultural value chains. And you cannot strengthen agricultural value chains without looking at technology. And the role technology plays in ensuring season in, season out harvesting of goods, of food, or produce is really quite important. And listening in to my brother in Zambia, I believe, I should first of all say I commend you for having this discussion in class. I think it's the first time I'm actually seeing a lecturer or a teacher interacting with these students to this level. And that alone, of course, shows you if you give youth room to take charge of their own development, this is what they do. It's really good, and I would actually encourage that a lot. And of course, also my sister there. So when you were all presenting, to me, and I think you also highlighted it, however much you talked about the check, I was like, okay. But to me, it's mainly on issues around partnership, where then we could use this knowledge, because what has been shared today is quite amazing to actually stay in this space alone. And with that, I was actually thinking, as the both of you were presenting, and what we are doing as the council, and I was going to reach out to Claire via email to see if we could be able to engage both of you. But of course, specifically also for Noreen, we usually run programs, and I think Julia from ITC participated in one of them, which is the Afro-Euro Youth Trade and Economic Integration Experience Exchange Forum. But then what we are also introducing this year is mainly the Afro-Asia. Of course, Asia, as we may know already, is the second largest trading partner with the African continent. But our idea then is to see how then can we have youth, the youth in trade in Africa and Asia synergize more of business to business, but also share these amazing ideas on how best we can also be able to strengthen our agricultural sector, which is mainly youth-based. The bigger majority of our African youth are into the small and medium business enterprises, but also the agricultural sector. They're either employees or they are actually running their own farms. So I think that's where I'm looking at strengthening of partnerships. And I think, Noreen, if you may, you probably will receive my email or request through Claire and of course the team from ITC to see how best we could work together with other different institutions and other different youth organizations in Asia to make this happen maybe sometime in May this year. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have a burning question before we get into the breakout rooms? You can unmute yourself. Iraq, RIL.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Aisha. I'm working with the Oxfam Iraq Response Innovation Lab, and we recently just launched the e-community for Iraq for agribusiness entrepreneurship. And I'm very happy. Thank you, Claire, and thank you everyone for this panel. I've really heard a lot of these challenges that are taking place in agribusiness and technology, and I can say it's very, very identical to what's going on in Iraq as well. However, we are talking about technology, and we are always looking on for the big picture, but we have never focused on the small size, because we are trying to always think innovative, thinking out of the box. But there are something like in Iraq, it's very, very basic stuff in Iraq that's going on. For example, not having the internet connection for, let's say, for these areas that the farmers are actually doing their agribusiness or agriculture projects and so on. If not, if not solving this a very minimum problem, then how we can think of having a pure, technology or digitalization to the agribusiness. And in addition to that, it's very important that when we talk to agriculture and technology, like one of the very, very important stuff is actually networking. And it's very also important that we network. If we're gonna talk about farmers, for example, it's very important that we network those people who are working on agricultural projects with others. For example, let's say investors, NGOs, governorate who can provide them with support. Because when we talk about agriculture, we always think, okay, those farmers who have zero knowledge with technology, who have very limited knowledge when it comes to networking, communication, and basic skills. And it's very important that we actually start to separate this knowledge, start to, make them believe in technology and internet and so on. Because before, it was, I guess, in October when we had another agriculture mobile application based in Mosul, and we did this survey with farmers on how this mobile application can support farmers and merchants and stakeholders, to connect them all together in one market through a mobile application. And the answers were kind of, crazy, because they basically would say what internet is and how we gonna order a product or service through a mobile application. So I believe it's really, really important that increasing the knowledge, in addition to convincing those farmers to start using this knowledge, and how this is gonna make their life much, much easier. And we can go from this very, very basic step, which I know it's like going backward more than going forward, but from these zero or small steps, and then one by one take them to digitalization or pure technology when it's come to agribusiness. And I would like to also hear from you, like how did it go? Do you still have like such a similar challenges with us? Do actually farmers or people in agriculture believe in technology, or they think, no, like this is not gonna work, this is not how we raised on agriculture? Thank you.
Thank you. I think Gilbert can answer that quickly because he spoke on it when we spoke about buy-in from the farmers, from the community serving here.
Yeah, thanks, Neo, and thanks, Rio, from Iraq. It's good to hear from someone from Iraq. I'm just thinking about, just picturing and what you're saying. It's quite interesting because you see, the problems that I think of internet, out of about 7 billion to 8 billion people in the world, I think we still have 3 billion people who still don't have access to the internet. So for us in Africa, that's been our background for quite some time. But I must say that we have countries, I think, because we think from a perspective that we have leapfrogged certain technology over time. We leapfrogged the use of landlines to smartphones. Then we have also leapfrogged certain kind of technology to the extent that banks are being leaped right now to now having mobile money banking. So what we have done in Africa and Zambia, to be specific, is that the technology that has not served well in areas where people have no knowledge or accessibility is that we have reinvented and created tools that are workable. So what we have done now is that quite strongly, as IMSICA, the company I work for, is we have what we call USSD. And that technology allows smallholder farmers who have no access to the internet, but are using feature phones. At least they can make a phone call. And you would agree with me that, you know, even in Iraq, there are places where people can still make a phone call, they can send a short SMS and all those things. And if they can do that, then they can be connected to these technologies using things like USSD. So we have that tool plugged into our e-commerce website. So such farmers have their own user experience compared to those ones who are using the website and mobile apps and tools like that. Then on the side of adoption, I want to agree with you that the critical issue with smallholder farmers is that you have to come from the perspective of what they need and not what you think they require or what you think is cool for farmers. You know, it's not about what is cool for them. For them, it's what do we need for us to be able to make better results. So as IMSICA, we've been able to do, I think in the last 3-4 years, this is our 6th year, we've served close to 10,000 farmers to date, and we are still growing that number. Our target is to be able to reach 1 million in 5 years time of farmers that we can be able to have using our platforms in for different reasons. And this includes those ones who are in areas where internet and smartphones are not the #1 tool for accessing technology. So you have to bring it down, like you said, and down means mobile money. People are accessing funds using their phones, their SIM cards, and you have to bring it down as well to people using USSD as a menu for transactions instead of using smartphones as well. So I hope those responses have helped. And, you know, I think there's room here. What I love about hearing about other countries in the world that also have challenges with technology, it makes me believe that the solutions we are building here in Zambia can work anywhere in the world because of that. So we are now going to be opening our eyes for expanding opportunities into other places. With those few words said from me, I would like to thank ITC, Ye, Claire, Neo, and everybody involved today for the opportunity that you guys gave me to share my experience and the little knowledge I've gathered in this space. And I'm looking forward to any more questions that may come afterwards, collaboration, and that check, Neo, please make sure you get a hold of it. Thank you very much from the class here and everyone. We are excited. Thank you for giving us a chance to be here.
Thank you so much.
I need to jump out and have class.
Thank you so much. We will be getting into the breakout rooms now. We have gone way ahead of time, but I think it was worth it. Thank you for your insights. And Claire?
Yes,